Good day and welcome to this video in this series teaching C#.NET for engineers. In this video we are going to look at how to optimally use ChatGPT when coding in Visual Studio. And in this video we're just going to go over best practices in concept, and in the next video we'll illustrate some of the practical ways to work with ChatGPT in Visual Studio using our demo projects that we have been building up to date. So what is the benefit of using ChatGPT when coding? Basically, one of the biggest advantages of using ChatGPT is that you no longer have to memorize syntax for C# up front. You can basically learn as you go. I have, over the course of my career, had to learn many different languages. I started with Turbo Pascal, then I went to Visual Basic, then I went to Fortran, then I went back to Visual Basic.NET, and then I started C#, then I learned JavaScript. I had to learn HTML along the way. And with each of those languages, most of the time I had to basically take a textbook. Many of those textbooks that you see behind me deal with basically how to code in Fortran, how to code in C# and so on. And when you forget something, you have to go back to the book and look it up, how to write a for loop, etc. That is one of the big advantages that we have now, is that you can always have access to ChatGPT or whatever your AI tool of choice is, and you can very easily get answers to those questions and also copy and paste that code. There's no need for you to actually type out the code all the time. There is some benefit in learning to memorize a little bit faster, but it's basically just a tool that now makes it much easier for you to code. So, biggest benefit, you don't have to memorize all the C# syntax up front. The second aspect is that ChatGPT will give you explanations about what the code does and how it actually works. So you'll often see below the code box that comes out of the prompt, it will show you how this works, and that can be useful. I often tell ChatGPT, give me only code, because at this stage of my career, most of the cases I already know how it works. I just need ChatGPT basically to type for me. That's essentially what it's doing. But if you are just starting out, the explanations of how basic code structures work can be useful for you as a learning aid. The key thing is that as you are an engineer and your code is not just your job, you are only coding to allow you to build a software solution to an engineering problem, you can focus on correctly describing your problem. So that's your engineering domain, and how to compartmentalize it into smaller sub-problems. In other words, you can focus on planning and orchestrating the solution, and ChatGPT can take care of the details. So that's the most important takeaway from this video, is that you should focus on planning and orchestrating your coding and let ChatGPT take care of the details. Now I want to just give you some general guidelines that I have found useful when I'm working with ChatGPT. First of all, you should view ChatGPT as a very, very clever intern, right? So it's very clever, but it's an intern. So in other words, very intelligent, but it does not understand anything about your problem and its wider context. So you have to really, really direct it very well. The key concept is to break your problem into smaller subcompartments. Don't try to give ChatGPT an overall problem. And then you can handle each of those subcompartments in a separate chat. Try to not have any one of your chats grow too big and too cumbersome, because at this stage I have found that the longer your chat goes on, the bigger the chance that the robot is going to go off script and start giving you answers that don't work any longer. So when you get to that point, rather start a new chat. It's very important to handle each of your problem subcompartments in a separate chat, so that you keep the prompt size as small as possible. I have found that using ChatGPT for coding comes with a little bit of experience to do it successfully, and it actually becomes a little bit of an art. So you have to work at it and be patient to develop skill in breaking your problem into the right size compartment. So now, very often, if I want to code, I will see the points, the slice points at which I have to break my problem into separate chats for ChatGPT and ask it, give me this code solution, give me that code solution, and so forth. So knowing when to split off a chat or a sub-problem into a separate chat, it becomes an important part of the skill that you have to try and develop over time. And also formulating your prompt with enough detail to get the output you want. In the next video, I'm going to actually solve an engineering problem, just a basic one. How can we read data from an Excel spreadsheet into our program? And I'm going to do an actual ChatGPT chat and solve that problem, and I'll show you how I do it, and you will see where ChatGPT has actually given me wrong answers, and I will go back to it and point it out. It will profusely apologize and then give me the right answer, and I'll show you along the way how you can formulate your prompt to try and avoid those problems or get it back on the right track as quickly as possible. Okay, so the recommended workflow for working with ChatGPT and Visual Studio is, first of all, I've got quite a wide screen, and I would split my screen in two, and I would put the ChatGPT, my browser, on the right-hand side and my Visual Studio on the left-hand side, so that I can copy and paste quite easily without opening and closing windows all the time. I can copy and paste from ChatGPT back into my code. So first of all, as I said earlier, you break your problem into smaller sub-problems, and then for each sub-problem, you must decide up front whether the solution to this sub-problem needs a new C# class, or maybe you just need to add a new method to your class. So you're going to ask ChatGPT to solve your problem for you by creating a C# class, or you're going to say write a method that can do X, Y, Z, and then you copy and paste that into an existing method. If your solution involves a new class, if it actually involves you adding a new class, then go into Visual Studio first and create that empty C# class and decide on the name, the class name, the namespace, etc., and make sure that your code compiles. Your class is empty, so there couldn't be an error in your class, but just make sure your code compiles at that point, because otherwise you are going to not be sure where your error comes from when the code that you copied from ChatGPT into your class perhaps gives an error. So at this point, if you know your code compiles before you start, then you know the problem must be in the answer that ChatGPT has given you. And then, as I said, you will copy and paste the ChatGPT solution into your C# class. Make sure you exclude the namespace that it gives you, and copy the using statements separately, or copy the entire solution in and then go and split out the using statements and cut it out and paste it above your namespace statement. In the next video, I'll show you what all of that means. So let's look at an example of a problem you may want to have solved in your engineering domain. I had mentioned a problem like this in one of our first videos. Let's say you need an application to batch process a set of Excel files. For each file, you want to read the road condition data. That's my engineering domain, so I always stick with those sort of problems. Let's say you want to read road condition data from all sheets that have a sheet name prefixed with the word log, and then combine that data into a single visual table with file and sheet name added as columns. Then calculate the visual condition index from condition data and export statistics for the VCI, that's the visual condition index, for each file into a CSV file. Now, the important thing is, if you take all of this and you paste this into ChatGPT and ask it to give you a solution, it's not going to tell you, hang on, first break your problem into separate subsets. It's going to actually try and do that for you. And it's going to come up with a very long solution. And this is where people often go wrong by overestimating the capacities of artificial intelligence. The solution that you get out if you formulate your problem like this is probably going to initially make you very excited, and as you go deeper and deeper into the code, you will find that you're going to get more problems, and what makes it worse is that the AI is going to be less and less capable of solving those problems. So don't give it a general problem statement like this and expect it to solve the problem for you in C# code. A much better way is to take this problem and create subproblems. So for example, the first thing you're going to do is to structure your problem. Think about it, just mentally sketch it out on paper and think about general things. For example, we said here in our problem, we need an application to batch process a set of Excel files. So you have to think, where are those Excel files? Let's say you work in a factory or you work in a consulting office, and every week you get a set of road condition data from contractors measuring it in the field. Will those files be sitting somewhere on a shared drive? Do you have access to that drive? Do you first need to copy those files into a single folder, etc.? You first need to think through those things. So structure your problem first on paper and think about things. Where are the files? Do we need to first move the files, etc.? Once you've done that, you will decide, okay, I'm going to need, for this problem, I'll need a separate class to read data from an Excel file and sheet. That's the first one problem. So that's one chat you're going to try and ask ChatGPT to help you with. And in the next video, we're actually going to do that with ChatGPT and we'll get to a solution. The other aspect is modify that class to get all the sheet names. Give me all the sheet names so that you can decide which ones to read. Expand the methods in the class to loop over all or just some sheets and combine the data into one set. That's a separate chat. Then you're going to need a class to hold your road condition data. For example, you can call that road segment class. We discussed that in the course dealing with engineering objects. So that class would include a calculation of the VCI, your visual condition index. Then you need to convert the data that you read to class of road segment objects. You can ask ChatGPT to help with that. And then, of course, you're going to need some feature or a class to calculate descriptive statistics, to loop over all of the road segment objects, take the VCI, calculate the average, and then a class to export the data to a CSV file. So I will think through my problem like this, and I will use ChatGPT to incrementally build the solution, but I'm in control all the way. Don't let your code base become one amorphous mess that you don't understand what's going on there. Initially, like I said, it may work and you get very excited, and then some sense of disenchantment sets in and you realize that your day is just slowly turning into torture. So that's it for this video. I want to just ask you to do some homework before we go and solve a problem with ChatGPT in the next video. First of all, I want you to just go back and review again what is a NuGet package and how to install one in Visual Studio. Once you've done that, I want to ask that you will install the package called Closed XML in your My Library project that we have developed in the first course dealing with C#. And then I want you to ask ChatGPT to explain what is the difference between a static C# class or method and an instant C# class or method. Make sure that you understand those concepts. If you have all of this homework done before we get to the next video, then it will make it much easier and you're going to get a lot of value out of the next video. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.